It's the Shouting Men podcast. 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 Reviews, previews, stories old and new. A podcast about the Gills, just for you. Dedicated to the past, present, and future too. It's the Shouting Men podcast. Go grab a brew. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast.
There we go. I pressed the right button this time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 4 of the Shouting Men podcast. And as usual, we are with my co-host David. And joining us today is the man himself, well known across X, Gillingham fan, and would you say stats guy?
No, I'd say lucky hunch guy.
Lucky hunch guy, right?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
lucky hunch guy. Tom Jasper, how you doing, Tom?
Yeah, right, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit tired. It's been a long day.
Well, that's what happens when you go on a 10-hour coach drive.
Yeah,
all
all
for
right.
Gills. All for Gills, that was.
For the Gills, up the Gills and all that. Anyway, so today, just like with Matt on our last episode, we are going to put Tom on the spot and find out about his love affair with our club and how long he's been a supporter for, and yeah, all that good stuff. So, David, over to you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we'll start how we always do with the quick fire questions. They're high level. So here we go, Tom. Burger or pie?
Burger.
Stand or sit?
Stand all the time.
Coach or train?
Train if I have to.
And Bovril, yes or no?
Never had it, so I can't say no or yes. I can't swing to one
It's always
side.
a no. It's always a no.
It looks horrific, I won't lie, but it could, I don't really get cold at games, so it's all right. I might never have it again.
Excellent stuff. Now on to the real stuff. So how long have you supported this wonderful club that we all support?
I get asked this quite a lot, and I couldn't tell you the exact pinpoint, the exact game, but I can tell you that it was the season of the Man City playoff extravaganza. So we're talking 98, 99 would have been the first season that I remember fully going to. Maybe not as an ST holder, but I think I went, quite a lot with family. I would have been 8 turning 9 that year. So that was when I can first recall going consistently. And obviously that ended in the way it did. But yeah, so realistically, I've been a season ticket holder now for a good 25 years.
Oh, same as me. I'm in my 26th year as a season ticket holder, and that was the first season I started going. But I was slightly older than 8 or 9.
It seems like all three of us started supporting Gills at the same time. So, because that was the same season that I started watching the Gills as well, and I was 9.
There you go. See, I remember being in the Rain of Men when it was all terrace. I don't know when that was converted, but that wouldn't have been. I wasn't going consistently at that point. I was going to the odd game like you do with your dad or whatever. And I remember fleeting little bits, but that season was the one that kind of, started the affair, I guess, if you like.
And do you have like a standout first thing that stands out when people ask you about the club?
I remember the first time that I ever experienced. I mean, I was always quite tall, but I was always really skinny boy, and I remember sort of, I used to celebrate as a boy would, but I think the first time that I experienced what we now call limbs in today's modern age is Bob Taylor's winner against Fulham. It was the infamous John Hodge cross, the counter-attacking game, and I think it was quite last minute as well. Obviously, Gills and Fulham had a rivalry dating back to sort of the 90s anyway. And I remember just kind of looking up and seeing the crowd just go absolutely nuts and thinking, you know, this is what I want. This is a bit of this, you know. And obviously, as time's gone on, that's kind of only grown. But and obviously, you know, the Man City game, going to Wembley, where I'd only ever seen England play before, and that was like, you know, my little team were playing at Wembley, and of course, we all know how that ended up. But I think in an age where everyone was supporting Chelsea's and Man United's, I think, you know, going to school and supporting Gillingham was kind of unheard of a little bit. And thankfully, that's getting somewhere, that's making progress now. But I think at the time, it was still quite rare for someone to support their local and not very good team. So, yeah, that's what stood out for me was, you know, Gills over Glory, I guess.
Well, they were the money boys at the time, weren't they? I think, was that the season they signed Chris Coleman for a fair chunk of money? And
yeah, I think they had Chris Coleman and Kit Simons as defenders, and I think they were just, you know, obviously they both played in the Premier League, didn't they? So they was that was Al Fayed's kind of era, wasn't it? So yeah, obviously, you know, we beat a lot of good teams over the course of the next few years, which I'm sure we'll go on to in a bit. But yeah, that game stood out because I hadn't really seen that much in terms of late drama before. So.
Yeah, no, I remember that game. I was in the Rainham end. I sit Medway stand now, but I was in the Rainham end for that one. And yeah, it was back in the days where you used to get absolutely crushed.
Yeah.
When goals went in. So do you have a favourite player? I know not everyone does, but do you have a particular favourite player?
I often, I mean, I get asked this again quite a lot, but I never really had, even as a boy, there wasn't one that kind of like, that was like, I was obsessed with, you know, how you got your Messis and Ronaldos and stuff these days and your Mbappes. But for me, it only became when I got older and I first saw Cody McDonald for the first time. I kind of felt like a kid again, in the sense of like, I just love him. He was just, for me, he was the player, not only in his first spell on loan, but when he came to us again permanently. And again, he came to us again on loan, didn't he, for the title winning season. Yes. He was part of that squad too. And he was just a complete player. Like, if you look at strikers since then, no one's held a candle to him at all. And I think Cody will always be my favourite player just because of his impact, his work rate, his skill level, the types of goals that he scored. Unparalleled. You know, no one's matched that by any stretch since then. And obviously, we've had some good strikers down the years, but for me, he was the complete striker. And, you know, I think as well, like, he had not only the levels of, you know, the quality that he had, but also the commitment side of it too. He was a runner. He worked hard. He was, you know, really committed to the club. And I think for that, Gills fans just love to see someone who's not only, you know, committed, but also good. We've had a lot of people that have been committed but not good, and vice versa in the past. But he, to me, was he was a box ticker on every sense. And I think, you know, the impact that he had, especially with, you know, Bayo in that first season, he was, to me, you know, his standout player for me.
And do you think he looks better now because of what's come after him, or do you actually think amongst Gills fans maybe he's underappreciated, or does he sit somewhere in the middle, or do we all feel the same way about Cody?
Like, I think strikers are always, you know, looked at on their goal output. You know, if you look at the likes of I also liked Gary Mulligan, but when he was playing for the record, but he was only ever, you know, looked at for his goal output and all that sort of stuff. But he worked like an absolute ox, didn't he? You know, a lot of the time. But Cody, for me, I think, because it would have been Pennock's season that he last played for us, I think, and obviously he almost single-handedly brought us out of that relegation dogfight, didn't he? You know, I remember the double against Bristol Rovers he scored at home, and that was, you know, memorable for me. And I think if you go back to the question, like, he hasn't been matched since then at all, and I just think he's probably, you know, if you look at goals to games and all that sort of stuff, he'll always stand out for me, and I'm sure a lot of other fans will agree.
Yeah, I think we've had a few fleeting, haven't we? We've had Verdane Oliver scored a few goals, and Tom Eaves scored goals, but no one scored them over consistently over the period of time. And
the types of goals too. The types of goals, you know, headers, overhead kicks, 30-yarders. You know, he's done all of it. And I think nowadays you don't really get that in a lot of strikers, especially at this level. You know, some teams have a fox in the box striker, but there's no one good enough to do what he did now at this level. Who
would you say your favourite up front pairing has been for the Gills?
Oh, Bayo and Cody, all day.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's more recent memory. I guess if you look at Taylor and Asaba back in the day.
Taylor and Asaba, yeah.
Yeah, that was before I really sort of knew the tactical side of the game. I think you look at it and go, oh, God, these players are really good. They score a load of goals. But when you're 9 and 10, you don't really kind of take into account what that actually brings to the table. But for more recently, you know, that first season that we had Bayo and Cody together, I think, you know, obviously, you know, we've had individual good strikers since then, but that pairing for me was just skill, grace, you know, unexpected skill. I think in Bayo's case, I think, you know, if you look at the mountain that he is, but them two together, you know, propelled us to a really, you know, to what should have been a better season than it was.
For me, Carlos Saab is my favourite striker for the Gills of all time, but I didn't start appreciating his goals until a long time after he left.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I was quite young myself when I first started watching them, and they were the partnership. But like Bob Taylor and Carlos Saab, I didn't actually appreciate their goals and their technical ability on the ball until sort of as I grew up a little bit, and that's when Carlos Saab became my favourite player. Hence why I've named my kitten after him. She won't be making an appearance today, by the way, because I'm in a hotel today. So, right. So, yeah. But let's carry on.
Do you both think that we'll ever have a pair like an Asaba or Taylor, another strike force that will share the goals like they did, like say get 15 apiece? Do you think we're ever going to get that? Do you reckon that's gone from football now?
I don't think the modern game allows it. I think the modern game is all about inverted wingers and you know, tens, and realistically the 4-4-2 as it was as we played in those days is kind of gone. Whether it's for good or, you know, if you look at our recent goal scoring plight, you can kind of say actually it's probably, you know, a 4-4-2 sometimes will be quite nice, but striking partnerships back in the day, you know, if you look at the top level, Cole and York and Sutton and Shearer, like, you don't get that anymore in the top flight, let alone in leagues 1 and 2, for example. So no, it's not.
I think the last League Two sort of top two pairing that you could probably compare to that were probably the top two pairing Mark Bonner had at Cambridge United in Mullin and Ironside, and then since then there hasn't really been one.
Yeah, because you still get a lot of clamour nowadays, and you see Gills fans on social media saying we need to go 4-4-2, we need to get 2 up front. But I think teams are so scared now getting overrun in midfield that I just can never see. You might play 2 strikers, but they won't play up top to get one, or always play deeper. And yeah, it is a shame that that may have gone, but it may come back.
If you look at the you know, the 4-4-2 back in, say, the Wembley final, you know, day. I know that Taylor had left by that point, but we had Onura, didn't we, and all that to come in. But we had Hesse and Paul Smith in the middle, and, you know, nobody got past those two. Whereas nowadays, everyone in midfield is so scared to make a tackle because of the repercussions from the referees. So if you look at, you know, Armani Little's the closest you're going to get, I think, to a Hesse-like character, but Ethan Coleman, Rob McKenzie, they're not known for their tough tackling because, unfortunately, that kind of part of the game's been eradicated somewhat. So 4-4-2, as you say, people would rather get men behind the ball than be overrunning midfield, and you don't get the same sort of you don't get wingers these days that run around the outside. You get wingers that cut inside onto their favourite foot, and it's all very transparent. So yeah, I think the tactical part of the game has moved on, whereas I think 4-4-2 was kind of meant for the footballers that weren't great at football but could put their, you know, put everything about, and it worked, didn't it, for us? So
good. So guilty pleasure player. Everyone has their favourite player, but I think everyone has that player that's maybe not the standout player, the player that might put a lot of effort in, or just the player that goes underappreciated. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Yeah, it's just tough because I normally go for the scapegoat. You know, every team has a scapegoat. in, you know, from the fans' perspective. I settled on a name you might not have had before, and his name was Stephen Gregory.
Oh yeah.
Because that title-winning squad was exceptional in so many ways. We had great strikers, real hard men defenders, a solid goalkeeper, threatening wingers, and we had Stephen Gregory in there. And, you know, he was in that side, and he did a lot of the stuff that no one kind of gave him credit for. You know, the one that let the likes of your Whelpdales and your Westerns and your Lees play ahead of him. But whenever something went wrong, he was the first one that people jumped at. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to support you out of just good consciousness. And because I was doing that, I was noticing more that he was doing throughout matches to break up play and to, you know, to let those players do what they should do. And I thought he was brilliant. But with him, he's kind of just went into the abyss. He sort of left professional football, and I don't know what he's doing now, but he didn't play for anybody again at a professional level. After winning the title for us, he then stuck around for a year or so and then kind of disappeared. But yeah, for me, he was the first person that sprung to mind, because there's loads of players out there that have, you know, the cult heroes, if you like, on the obvious ones. But for me, Stephen Gregory in that title-winning team was the one that I looked for.
Do you know what? I didn't forget him as a player, but I have completely forgot that he was in the title-winning team.
Yeah,
like you said, you remember all your Kedwells, your Dion Burton, your Adam Barretts, and all the wide players. I completely forgot that he was in that team. There
you go, and that's kind of,
he's one of our title winners.
Yeah, that's the thing. He'll be on the 20th anniversary shirts we do in 2033 when we're putting his name in the collar. And people will go, oh, S. Gregory, who was that? And then gather the kids around, will tell you a tale, you know? Like, yeah. That's kind of what I think about him.
No, that's a good one. I always have my guilty pleasure is Dennis Ollie.
Oh, yeah.
At times useless, but never stopped running. And he always got picked. And you can always tell a player, like your Gregory's, that they were always picked, even though their ability might not be to the high level. But they always try. And like you mentioned earlier, like Gary Mulligan. Another one, never got the goals, but ran. And no one would probably ever have Mulligan 9 on the back of their Gills shirt. But
no, unless their name was Mulligan.
Unless you were him or one of his kids. But yeah.
But again, those players were the ones that weren't appreciated by the fans. And I think you either kind of go with it, or you choose to sort of, you know, go against the grain and focus more on these players and what they actually can do and what they do bring. And again, with Ollie, he was part of a really, really good team, but always the one that kind of got the brunt of it when things weren't going quite right.
That's a really good one. So, best match you've ever been to? It doesn't have to be a one that we've won. It could be, again, a lot of people's best match may be the memory of the Man City game because of the type of game it was. But yeah, what's the best match you've been to as a Gills fan?
So I'll do one cup and one league, because obviously back in the cup games we had some real good games, didn't we? I think going 2-1 up at Highbury was something that will stick in the memory, because that was, for a brief moment, we thought that was it. You know, we were going to beat Arsenal on their own patch, and then they brought on Omri, Pires. I think Vieira might have had an appearance too. I'm sure Gooden's goal was to put us 2-1 up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think at that point, you know, the away end just went absolutely nuts. And yeah, for a moment we thought that was it. Obviously, you get to go to a historic ground like Highbury as well and do that. Wembley, obviously, I mean, the first time that we beat Wigan, and then, you know, that moment was just surreal. Going there to Wembley and doing that. Obviously, the next time we were at Wembley was in the so-called new Wembley. But I think in the league, I've picked out a couple. There's obviously Hereford will stand out for a lot of people just because that was absolute carnage. You know, 9 goals and just the way that last-minute winner went in. It was just an awful goal to watch or to concede if you're an away fan. But for us, it was just jubilation, wasn't it? And then I've picked out the Josh Wright hat trick against Scunthorpe United, where we got 3 penalties in like 15 minutes or whatever it was. And it was just, again, couldn't believe what I was watching. And I remember beating Millwall on their own patch, the Christmas of 15, 16 with, you know, Dak and all that lot playing. And that was because we just completely annihilated Millwall on their own turf. And that's always nice to do. But for me, I think Hereford was the one that stuck out for me originally because it was just such an unbelievable occasion, and you know, would always live long that, you know, crazy commentary from the guys on Radio Kent when it went in, almost screaming down the microphone. It's been a while since we saw anything like that.
No, I agree. And yeah, I'm going to bounce off a couple of things that you said there, because as we're a nostalgic podcast, we like to look back. A couple of players or games and players you've mentioned there that we'll discuss between the three of us. Gavin Tomlin. What did you all make of him from his time here? And he was another one that I can't recall much that happened to him once he left. He kind of came in on loan, didn't he? Felt like he scored a lot of goals for us. I could be wrong. It could have just felt at the time he was banging them in, and yeah, he kind of vanished.
Well, that was because that was the years after the title win, wasn't it? And we went through a couple of seasons of, you know, League One solidarity, and not having, you know, again, we had Keds in there, but he was moved on eventually. I'm sure Bayo came back, or did he? Maybe he didn't even leave. But we had Tomlin at the same time that we had Joker 4 as well. And Joker 4 had been a thorn in our side for years. He'd always played well against us for other teams. But we got him on loan from somewhere or other. And him and Tomlin kind of didn't really, they sort of switched quite a lot. They weren't ever guaranteed starters. But again, yeah, someone who had done a lot in terms of that loan spell. But we'd had a lot of loan strikers in that sort of period, and none of them had really kind of made a claim for, you know, a permanent spot, if you like.
Tomlin scored 6 in 10 games.
He's only left 10 games, blimey.
Yeah.
It felt like longer. I thought
feel
it was
like longer
season, but clearly not.
Yeah, he scored 6 in 10 games before joining Southend permanently after leaving Dagenham and Redbridge. And he last played a game in 2012 for Cray Valley Paper Mills. 2022. 2019. Yeah, 2019 to 2022. He played for Cray Valley Paper Mills, playing 38 games and scoring 23.
Not bad, is it? Out of interest, what were Joker 4 stats for us?
Joker 4.
I'm sure that was the same era, the same time as Tom.
My mate had a bet on Joker 4. He had a dream one night that Joker 4 would score a hat trick for us. Put the bet on, and he scored a hat trick for us at home. Can't remember who it was against.
Wow.
So
and he probably never scored again after that.
So in Joker 4's loan spell with us in 2011, he scored 7 in 12.
Yeah, and there was a hat trick in that.
And when he joined us permanently, he scored 2 in 18.
Ah, see, that's the thing, isn't it? You're no longer playing for a contract, are you?
Yeah.
No, exactly. And his last game was in 2014 for Sutton United, where he played 3 games and scored none.
Yeah.
Different levels. I think he was older, but still, it's a long time ago.
Yeah, Joker 4 is much older.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, and another name.
Oh no, he's only a year older. Sorry, he's only a year older.
So I say, and another name you mentioned, and he was another Marmite player, Josh Wright. What do you all make of Josh Wright and his time at the club?
I love Josh Wright.
I don't see how anyone's got a negative viewpoint. It's not as if he was an absolute disaster. We've had some disastrous loan spells recently and all that sort of thing. Because he was with us on loan, wasn't he, for the playoff final season?
Yeah.
And then he come back a few years later. I thought he was hard working. He wasn't the toughest tackler, but he was decent on the ball. I think maybe he was one of those that was hung out a little bit as a scapegoat for when things go wrong. I liked him. I had no issue with Josh Wright. He's still playing now, and he's still at Ebbsfleet, I think. Yeah,
he's still at Ebbsfleet. He was caretaker manager after they sacked what's his name?
Kutri or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had 2 or 3 games as caretaker manager. Do you want his stats for Gills?
Yeah,
I know he scored at least 3 goals from the penalty spot in one game. That's all I can tell you.
2009, when he was on loan with us, played 8, scored none.
But 1 assist.
He got the assist.
For a corner, yeah.
Yeah. But 2015 to 2017, 14 goals in 85 games.
Not bad, is it? It's not a bad.
And it wasn't really his game, was it? I would presume a lot of them would have been penalties because he took some good ones, but he also, I can't remember where it was. Was it Wickham away? He blazed one well.
Did you sky it? Yeah, I think you're right. Isn't it?
Was that the day did we get relegated that day, or was it just a bad day? I know we've been relegated at Wickham before, but I don't know if it was that game.
I don't know.
No, I don't think it was. But...
Interestingly about Josh Wright, he also had 19 caps for England at the underage group levels.
There you go.
4 for the England under 16s, 9 for the under 17s, 1 for the under 18s, and 4 for the under 19s.
Just couldn't quite make it to the next level.
No. He's currently his stats for Ebbsfleet since 2022: 85 games, 4 goals.
There you
go.
I'll sleep tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, we ask lots of positive questions, but we also like to hear people's doom and gloom stories because supporting the Gills, it's not always positive. So what's been your lowest point supporting the Gills? It can be a game, again, it can be a season, it could just be a moment.
I mean, most people could say the entirety of August to December 2022, but I think I've also seen worse. Now, obviously, you've got like the Brackley scenario from years ago, and I remember us being absolutely destroyed by Dover in the FA Cup. I think it was live on the telly as well, which was awful. But I remember visions of seeing the Dover fans celebrating in our now stricken off top tier of the Brian Moore stands. But for me, one thing stands out, and that is not Man City. That is relegation from the Championship away at Notts Forest, where we were, I think, 1 goal above that threshold. And then I can't remember whether it was 1 goal or not, but I'm sure we went down by goal difference. It was Eugen Bopp's long ranger for Nottingham Forest that sealed our fate. And it was like, I think it was only a few minutes left to go as well. Looped over the keeper. I can't remember who the keeper, I think it might have been Steve Banks, or I can't remember who the keeper was, maybe Jason Brown. But yeah, it was like horrible because that was the first time I'd ever seen relegation before. I'd seen the playoff thing, but I was 8 or 9. You know, that wasn't for me. That wasn't deep enough. But at 14, seeing us get relegated in the last minute, obviously those championship years were so much fun. You know, highest ever position in the league hierarchy. We played and beat teams like West Ham and Leeds and all that lot. But then I thought, you know, the more we went on, the championship was becoming more and more difficult. So to lose out on that by the margins that we did, and obviously never gotten really close to it ever since then. But that day was horrible because it was raining. It was horrible. I'd travelled up the night before with my cousin, and we'd gone to stay at his place in Ipswich, and then gone to Nottingham, which was backward, but you know. And it was just, I was tired, and it was a long day, and we got relegated, and then we walked back, you know, to the car and greeted by loads of Forest fans on the way, talked, and I just thought, I hate this. I don't ever want to go through this ever again. But yeah, that to me struck out because that was just the highs and lows. We went 2-1 up, and I thought that was it. We were gonna survive, and then just dagger through the heart at the last second.
Yeah, because I'm pretty certain from memory. I think, like you said, I'm pretty certain we stayed up by a goal, but I'm pretty certain went down by a goal. But I'm pretty certain the year before we stayed up by a goal. We
drew 0-0 at Stoke.
Yes, I went to that as
Ronnie
well.
and Stan Turnant and Ronnie Jepson kept us in the league by, you know, the skin of our teeth, and then obviously the same margin was against us the year later.
Yeah,
good times.
As we've mentioned it already, do you want Cody McDonald's stats for us?
Go for
it. Just give him a crown. Just give him a...
Yeah, 2010 to 2011 when he was on loan to us from Norwich. 41 appearances, 25 goals.
Like that.
2013 when he was on loan. So this is before he joined us permanently. Or when he was on loan, it was 4 goals in 7. And then when he joined us permanently from 2013 to 2017, 48 goals in 153 games.
That 25, that can't have been beaten. If that's league goals, that can't have been beaten. I don't think Eves or Oliver, I don't think scored.
I mean, that's obviously, I think Wikipedia will cover, all of it, and it's not always
right. So
accurate,
the 25, it was 25 league goals in 41 games in the 2010-2011 season.
That can't have been beaten. No, nowhere near. Well,
2012, 2013. Sorry, 2012 to 2017. It was 200 and no. That's a running total of every league season. So 2012 to 2013, he scored 21 in 51 games. 2014 to 2015, 16 in 43. 2015 to 2016, 5 in 22. And in his last season with us, 10 in 44. So that's 70. So in that spell, it was 77 goals in 201 games.
And the thing is, like, we had some not great players at that point either. So,
and that's league goals, not including the cup goals, which would make it another 4 on top of that.
Yeah,
I can't believe he's got 25 goals.
He's not being beaten for a while with that.
No, yeah, because I'm pretty certain the other year they made a big thing when Oliver got to 20 in a season. I think that's the COVID season. He got to 20.
Yeah, doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't know if
it didn't. Yeah, didn't see it. Didn't happen.
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't count. We didn't see it. Tom Eves 21 in 43 goals in 2018 to 2019.
Very good.
And 2017 to and the season before that, it was 17 in 41.
They were good numbers.
Yeah.
Considering I think he scored like 9 in his entire career before that, and we were going, what have you signed him for? And then he has 2 amazing seasons. Hasn't really scored since.
Who are you on about? Tom Eves?
Yeah, I know he's been at Hull and Rotherham and all that, but
so before he joined us,
he's at Yeovil. I think Yeovil mostly.
He scored 7 for Bristol Rovers on loan, 8 for Shrewsbury Town on loan, 0 for Rotherham on loan, 0 for Yeovil on loan, 1 for Bury on loan. Then he went back to Yeovil and scored 4. Basically, he hasn't scored more than 7 in a season until he came to us.
Same with Oliver, though. He hadn't scored double figures for anybody at any level, mostly non-league, mind. And we signed him and he scored like 30-odd goals in 2 seasons.
And then since he's left us, it's 5, 4, 5, 0, 6, and 1.
Yeah, see.
Grass isn't always greener, is it, when you leave?
No.
He scored 1 for Northampton Town last season in the league.
The grass isn't always greener, but the money is better.
Sorry, that's this season. He scored 1 for Northampton this season in 1 appearance.
Oh, good. Prolific.
Last season, he scored 6 in the Championship for Rotherham United, but that was 6 in 33 games.
And Rotherham were awful last season, and they're not great this season, to be fair. So,
and then the season before that, he scored 9 in 20 for Rotherham. So, yeah, grass isn't always greener on the other side. Maybe Tom should think about coming back. I know he's 32, but.
So, Tom, back to you, mate.
Yes.
Favourite away ground?
You've got your nostalgic answers, and then you've got your actual quality of ground answers. I think quality of ground, I have to say White Hart Lane. We were absolutely destroyed against Tottenham in the League Cup, but going to White Hart Lane was just, a real it was just a really good atmosphere. And even like going to Brentford a few years back, like the actual quality of the ground itself, I think for me, what makes it stand out. My favourite away ground is Roots Hall.
Okay.
Because it's an absolute hole, but that's what kind of makes it fun. You know, I think I remember going there more than probably any other away ground. And then you got the tin roof, didn't you, that you used to bash on the top of it, and it used to elevate the sound from the away fans. And obviously, you know, you pack all the away fans into that you know end, and it's really, really loud. And I think for me, that's what makes it so so enjoyable. I liked the old Griffin Park too, before Brentford, you know, upsized and got really, really good at football.
The famous pub ground.
Yeah, well, that was it. I was probably too young to go to the pub at that point. But when you used to be able to stand like right behind the keeper and, you know, put him off, and actually, to be fair, their keeper for the most part was Stuart Nelson, so that was interesting. But yeah, I think that close proximity to the sort of stadiums to the pitch side for me, Roots Hall, Griffin Park were two that stood out when I first read that question.
Have you did you go to or have been to any of you Kenilworth Road?
I haven't, and I want to go before they make it, you know, a soulless bowl like the MK Dons Stadium is. I don't know whether they've got plans to relocate. I'm sure I read somewhere that they're doing that.
Yeah,
sorry,
they've just been given planning permission for Power Court Stadium, so
Okay.
that'll be on the opposite side of the railway line to where they are now.
Oh, because I went there last year for the cup game, and obviously you read and see all the pictures of like walking through the gardens and all of that. But when I got there, like, I know you don't really sit anyway away, but you physically couldn't sit down. Like, they'd built the seats on terracing, so like there was physically no leg room. It was such a bizarre. I would like to have gone there before they'd done up the side for when, because obviously being in the Premier League last year, they'd done up a side. I'd like to have gone before that. But yes, it was a lovely old school ground, but so bizarre. So it would almost be like us putting seats in what was the Rainier back in the day. You've got those really shallow steps, and they tried to put seats on them, and you just physically could not sit down. It was so bizarre.
Same though with Selhurst Park. Like, I don't know whether they've made that more kind of modern day, because obviously they've been in Premier League now for a while. But when we played Palace back in the day, like their seats were atrocious. And like, I know that Burnley have still got the same thing, where it's just like basically wooden slabs, aren't they, that you kind of sort of have to try and sit on. But I remember at Palace that I mean, my legs back then were a lot shorter, but in terms of actually leg room, you just couldn't move. And I know a lot of them have now got sort of safe standing and all that sort of area, but for me, it was just going to grounds where you physically couldn't actually sit down because there wasn't space to do so.
For me, the worst away ground, I think, the away ground that I hated the most going to at Gills was Gig Lane.
Right.
Because the front two rows of the seats were lower than the pitch.
So you're looking up at the action, are you, like that?
Yeah, but you basically, I'm quite lucky. I'm quite tall, but if you sit in the front row, you're looking at the ankles of the goalkeeper. So, but I think we played Bury last, like the year before they went bust.
Yeah, it must be a good 3 or 4 years ago, I think, since we played Bury.
Yeah, because I was at the last time we ever played at Gig Lane against Bury, and afterwards, because I live in Manchester, after it all went tits up there, I was like, oh no, this is really sad. And I was going up to the ground every day to console fans and say, it'll be better, it'll be good. But yeah, I love Bury. I love the stadium. I love the fans, but I hate that away end. Because
then Bury was, we beat them at home. You remember Ossa Davey running from like the halfway line and beating him? That was Bury. So that was 2016-17. So that would have been maybe the year before they went into, well, they basically just went extinct. It shows in it how long it was, because how quickly the time's gone, because I thought Bury went out of business a lot later than that, but it must have been around that sort of time. I don't know when that was, but yeah, as our northern correspondent, Kirrien, I guess you've been to a lot of more grounds that I've not been to. I've not really been that far north recently in terms of visiting away grounds.
I've been to a fair few. I've been. Let's think. I've been to all of the League Manchester stadiums. Been to Wigan a couple of times, Blackburn, Burnley, Preston North End. I like Deepdale. Deepdale's all right. I think probably the worst current league ground in the north is Harrogate's.
It didn't help, did it, last season either? I guess
I missed that game. I was working, so I don't mind that.
I went to Barrow. I went to what's now the SO Legal. We went up to Barrow for a weekend.
Yeah,
it's a lovely part of the world, but the ground's atrocious. But then again, it's been a non-league ground, isn't it, for forever? So, and they'll have no need to improve that ground, because they're never going to get loads and loads of thousands of fans in. They've got a very much a core fan base at Barrow, and that's probably all that they're going to get. But as far as being close to the pitch is concerned, you couldn't really get any closer.
Yeah. So Bury AFC went bust in 2016.
Wow.
Okay.
I like you, Tom. I thought that was COVID time. No, maybe even after COVID.
They went bust in 2017.
Yeah, so that would have been, because that was the Davy goal. That would have been the season.
Was 2015, 2016 season.
Yeah, and then because the season after was when we signed, was when actually Cody was playing for us, when we had Jet and we had Paul Konchesky and all that lot. Yeah, that was horrific, wasn't it?
The season that should have been. That's actually we signed Chris Wagstaff and
we had
Lee Martin,
maybe like that, and all that lot. And
God, that was the pre-season where you think, oh my God, we're going up, and it was horrendous.
But we thought that every year we since then.
Yeah,
I was going to say, you mean like last season and this season as well?
Yeah. Still time.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get onto the current state of the club just yet. So Tom, I'm going to put you in. So you're now Brad Gallinson.
I am.
And you can make one change to the club. It can be ground related. It could be in the back. It could be anything you like. What's the change you would like to see happen at the club?
Sound system. No. That's the one, isn't it? That's one. I don't know. I would like to see us, and I know this sounds a little bit outdated, but we keep talking about this catchment area that we've got, in Kent, in terms of attracting players to the club, especially from non-league and from scouting from young age. And it seems like we're doing that a bit more now. But back in the day, there used to be a thing where you'd have a feeder club, like a parent club, and all of the top teams would send their players out on loan to a feeder club. I don't know whether that's still a thing in football or whether that's been eradicated, but we're local to Chelsea, to Tottenham, to Palace, to you saw how the Palace kids months ago completely annihilated us at Priestfield, and there's some really quality. I'd love to see us set up a little bit of a thing with with top flight teams to give us their best talent, players who are going to come and are going to put everything in, some rough diamonds in there. You might get a few absolute no-hopers who can't adapt to the men's game, but how often do you see clubs in our level and just above getting players in from top flight clubs and then absolutely storming it, and then in 5 years' time they're earning 60-70 grand a week? Like back in the day, we got a few of those, from bigger clubs, and I'd like to see the attraction towards the club now, the pull that the club has got in terms of the ownership and and all that sort of stuff. Let's get in some top players from those clubs and build that commercial and that relationship side with them, or just improve the sound system. There's kind of two things there that I guess will work out. Don't even know whether that's feasible or not. Don't even know whether that's the top clubs that rule that or or not. But
I like that. I like that idea. But I think nowadays the big clubs, though, they're more interested in linking with teams abroad, aren't they? You've got
the PL2, isn't there? The second, the Premier League reserves under 21s team.
Talking of top talent that have played for Gills on loan recently, Mr. Jorge Hurtado is currently at Manchester United, currently at Old Trafford with PAOK today as they play Manchester United. He's not in the squad. No, he's in the travelling party because he plays for their second team. But I was speaking to some PAOK fans last night, and basically he travels to all the Europa League games because they want him in the first team next season because he's actually signed permanently for them for £4 million.
Wow, man.
And people thought that he might come back here. Would you go to Greece or would you go to Gillingham? We'd go to
Gillingham every day. Yeah,
we would. But if you're a Colombian boy who wants to earn big bucks and get on and play for the biggest teams in the world, you're not going to go here, are you? You're going to go to Greece. Albeit as a water boy.
Also, it is kind of more his climate.
Yeah, I'm guessing so. Yeah, I mean, he did come to us. Was it? Did he come to us early on, or was it in the January window?
January.
Yeah, what's he doing? Why? I think he got lost. What's that famous thing about Robinho? Was told that he didn't know that there were two Manchester clubs, and he signed for City, but he thought he was
signing for United. Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah, same thing.
Thought he was signing for Chelsea and ended up at Gills.
Yeah,
imagine
Chelsea was full. There was too many of them.
So a couple more, Tom. So in your eyes, what makes Gillingham different to other clubs?
I think that a lot is talked about kind of the fact that we're the only league club in Kent, and let's face it, unless we have a complete disastrous drop off, we're going to be the only league club in Kent for a long time. That to me is important. I think the fact is that we've got no actual rivalry. If you look up and down the country and you go, right, there's North London Derby, there's Ipswich and Norwich, there's Sunderland and Newcastle. We call Swindon rivals, we call Millwall rivals, we call Charlton rivals, but realistically we've got no geographical cutthroat bloodthirsty derby matches down here. And it's kind of a shame really, because I'd like to experience that, but I think what makes us different in that respect is the fact that we kind of say that we've got these rivals, but actually it's not really the same as you would do in an orthodox geographical sense. That to me is a bit of a standout. But I think I mentioned it earlier. I was talking about Brentford when they went from their stadium to the G-Tech, and when Luton are going to go and do that. Like Gillingham, Priestfield as it is, obviously has developed and has grown over time for the better, but it still's got all the fundamentals that I first loved when I was a kid. Like it's still got the same, the concourse bit, as much as that's been improved and all that sort of stuff. The ground still holds the same value for me in a sense of the way it looks, the foundations, all that sort of stuff. That's why I don't want us. I echo what Brad says about moving to a new ground. Only when it's actually time to do that. When there's people lining up at the doors being turned away, do we need to think about that? But for me, staying at Priestfield for as long as possible, because it's just what makes it all the worthwhile. Senior mates and all that sort of stuff down the front before the game, and you wouldn't get that at other clubs. You wouldn't get that at your big teams. I think that's what makes Gillingham so special for me personally, is the fact that it's just so familiar.
And like Brad said, when it comes to Priestfield, we could there's a chance we can stay at Priestfield even if we do get bigger, because now building technology allows us to build up instead of out.
Yeah.
So
Great.
we could be at Priestfield for the foreseeable, and I would not be disappointed in that at all.
It would be nice to see, if you look at things now, you kind of you shoot in towards the Brian Moore stand and you see nothing, and you go, that's a bit of a shame. I'd like to eventually see a built up stand where it just adds a four-sided atmosphere to things, and gives the home fans in the Medway stand a little bit more to sort of aim at, all that sort of thing. But when it's needed, you know, as you said, don't need it yet, because we're never going to feel that side of things unless you get a big team come down in the cup. But,
I was going to say, like, being realistic, I don't see the harm in, again, an ideal world of seating, permanent seating, the town end, but I don't think it needs to be Rainham end height. Like, it could be 10, 12 rows. Like I said, bar the odd cup game or Millwall Swindon come to town. Like, League Two is very northern. Like, we very rarely get more than, you're lucky if 200 away fans come.
Yeah.
So you're never really going to fill it. But to even give them half and we have half, it's like, even like I went to AFC Wimbledon last year, and there's not much behind the goal there, but it boxes you in. And I think we are missing a trick there. But obviously it all comes down to cost, and I'm sure that they can spend their money elsewhere.
Yeah,
it would be nice.
I do think it might, you know, as much as that's not really what we're about, I think it might actually invite away fans. If you look at away fans now talking about ticket allocation, I saw Port Vale are bringing like 475 on Saturday, and some people going, oh yeah, but we're top of the league, you know, like why aren't we bringing more? People say, because I don't want to go Gillingham. I don't want to go and sit in the, you know, in the away end. I don't want to go and be open to the elements. I don't want to go Gillingham because of the lack of away facilities, you know, that sort of stuff. So actually that is deterring people from coming, potentially. Not that that's our problem right now, as you say, but maybe in the future, if they were invited to a nice, albeit temporary, quite high away stand, that might increase the away support as well. But again, not while we're in this league.
I think sorry, I was just going to say, I think I don't think there's anything wrong with the temporary stand. I think what we need to do is look at what I'm going to say this. I'm going to kill myself for saying this, but we need to look at what Wrexham have done with their cop end. They've got this really nice looking. Okay, it's open to the elements, but the stand looks nice. They've put the facilities in. They put porta cabin food and stuff in, but it's good quality. It's not like what we've got. They've put decent temporary toilets in there as well, rather than the disgusting concrete ones we've got. And I think the town end doesn't have to have a roof on to be appealing to away fans. The facilities just need to be better.
And not held up by poles.
And that.
Yeah. Potentially.
So on that, what do you make of the current, moving up to more recent times? What do you make of the current state of the club?
What do you mean, the last 7 games or the last few years?
I would say the current state, as in the Gallinsons, the playing staff, the whole match day experience.
Yeah, I mean,
and the less mention of the former chairman, the better.
Yeah, I don't need to give. He does that himself, you know, in terms of putting himself in the spotlight. Gallinsons, that part of it, love it. You know, we haven't lost our identity. We haven't, you know, become Americanized. We haven't become, you know, there's been no radical changes that have impacted what we know and love as far as our club is concerned. You know, the match day thing has got better. You know, we've had more opportunity to sort of do stuff within the club when it comes to things like the interviews and all that sort of stuff, which kind of has, you know, I know some people don't agree with it, but on the whole, for those that actually want to see that sort of thing, I think it's really benefited, you know, the fans just to hear more from inside the club. You know, the fans forums are a really good idea. And I feel that they're genuine as well. They're not staged for our benefit. So that side of things, yeah, you know, really thankful for them for what they did from the start. And obviously now, whilst on the pitch, it hasn't kind of transpired onto what's going on there. I think we can all safely say that we're in a better place in terms of what the club is doing, you know, on those levels. On the pitch, we could sit here and debate it for another hour, but we wouldn't change anything, wouldn't solve anything. Everyone's got their their reasons for what they feel is to blame. I don't think any one person's right or wrong. I don't think you can say, oh, this is what's causing the run of form, or whether it's this season or if you look at the last sort of 2 seasons, what's caused you know, the poor form and the lack of goals and all that sort of stuff. So you can say it's recruitment, you can say it's manager, you can say it's players' mentalities and attitudes. I think this season it's just a case of we've not been able to put our first 11 out, and whatever that might look like. You know, all the best clubs that go on the best runs pick from the same 18 players more or less week in, week out, and they have consistency and continuity, and they know this is the way that we're going to play. You've got to do this to beat us. We're going to beat you like this. This season, we haven't got that. We haven't got a lot of players who are the difference makers for us. We don't have a lot of players that can play from one week to the next. We've already used 3 goalkeepers. We've used 3 or 4 different strike pairings and formations. The midfield's been decimated by injuries. I just think that you cannot physically say this is the problem without knowing whether the players can actually change that around if they're fit. So that, for me, the current state of affairs, you know, confidence is very, very low. The mood around the place is very low. There's a lot of comments about, oh, well, you know, the Walsall game's been called off. That means it's our best result of the season. All that sort of stuff. You know, I get it. It's frustrating, but for me, it's not the end of the world. It is retrievable. The season can be retrieved. Bonner shouldn't be sacked. The players need to find something from somewhere, but we need to get them back. We need our best 18 out there first and foremost.
I agree, mate. And right, we're going to wrap it up with the Fab Four. So you get to pick your best goalkeeper, best defender, best midfielder, and best forward. And as we said in the last show, in our last show of the season, me and Kirrien are going to combine all of the best Fab Fours we've had and try and pick an 11 from all the suggestions that we've had. So let's start with the goalkeeper.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Stuart Nelson. I had Jason Brown in there too. It's a very, very close call, but to me, Nelson is our title winner, and I loved him.
And he played an awful lot of games.
Yeah, and he loved the club too. Like you could just tell between him and the fans, it was a real relationship there. I think, you know, he really bought into what we were doing, and you know, it said, you know, you could depend on him a lot of the time to do it for us. So, Stuart Nelson.
Perfect. Defender.
John Egan. You could have gone for a lot of defenders that weren't very good at football, but were great for us, the likes of Pennock and Ashby and all those sort of players. But John Egan, for me, was the best of both. He could do it all. We were never going to see him for longer than we did, because he was always going to go on to better things, but he was just a class act. So, yeah, Egan for me.
Okay, on to midfield.
Hessenthaler. Unrivalled.
I'll be shocked if we speak to anyone that doesn't pick him.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it's going to be Hess with everyone we speak to this season, isn't it?
Yeah, we may have to let our next guest know that you just can't. Otherwise, our midfield, we're going to struggle.
He could play in 4 different places at once, and he'd be fine.
Well, he's going to have to at this rate.
Yeah. Now, listen, the word legend's used all the time these days. He's a legend, he's this, he's that, but he is, like, if you look at him, you know, manager, player, considering that we bought him at what, 26, he was quite young, he was quite old in the game in terms of like in terms of pro football and all that sort of stuff. Just epitomises what Gillingham's all about. Even to this day, we love people that work hard and put it all in, leave it all out there on the pitch. That's what he did. So yeah, for me, it's got to be him.
And who's going to be scoring all your goals?
Well, who do you think? I've already praised him already today.
Cody Mack.
Yeah. Again, other candidates. I loved Paul Shaw. I loved Marlon King. I liked Darius Henderson. He's in his own right, but he wouldn't do it for me. Cody McDonald for me was just a standout striker across the board.
It's a good 4.
It's a good 4. We'll take some beating because Hesse will bite your legs off before anyone gets to him.
Yeah.
No,
Even now, I reckon.
no,
Yeah, I reckon so as
say-
well. Hessenthaler played 303 games for Gillingham.
wow.
Yeah.
I think he's a legend, and then Max Amos played more, and he's a scapegoat. But hey,
Max for me is a legend.
that's one person's opinion.
In fact, no, actually, he's not a legend, and the only reason he's not a legend is he went to Bristol City. No, Rovers. Sorry,
Rovers. Yeah, it's right because the clock restarts after that. It's got to go back to 0 again.
Didn't he go and play under Joey Barton and then fell out with him or something?
Yeah,
he was captain at Bristol Rovers under 2 bosses, and Barton came in and whipped it off him straight away.
And he was like, "Nah, mate, I ain't having this."
Yeah.
Well, he got relegated with us and went there and got relegated with them.
Yeah,
came back.
good times.
Yeah, but no, I was going to say, I really enjoyed that, Tom. Thanks for coming on.
It's been brilliant.
Good questions there. Good insight to go on to. Yeah,
I say we're popping the links where you can follow Tom. Did you want to give us a bit about the stuff that you do on social media, Tom?
Yeah, you can do. I mean, I'm on a hiatus right now because unfortunately the written content just plays second fiddle to all you great YouTubers and content creators and whatnot. And I'm trying to keep it alive, but if I don't have it in my head and I can't be bothered, it kind of falls by the wayside a little bit. But I do try to write about some EFL stuff on there, and I occasionally do write stuff for Matt over at Gills in the Blood too. Obviously, that's all Gills related. And then I normally appear on the ME7 podcast spaces. So basically, I just haul myself out to different people for a small fee. I'm a sales sword for podcasts at the moment. But no, it's I just love talking about football really. So obviously Gills comes first because that's what gives us the most trouble, isn't it, Gills moment. But yeah, you generally find me just ranting after a match and ranting at people because of their rants as well. So yeah, I'm quite active on there, but yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. As I said, we're pop Tom's stuff in the link. So yeah, go give him a follow. Obviously, give us a follow. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. So yeah, go over there, give us on Spotify. So yeah, go over, give everything a like. Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, give everything a like, wallop subscribe buttons, give us any ticks you can, share what you can, get us out there. And as I said, anyone that wants to come on, be the next Tom and talk through your time as a Gills fan, we're more than happy to have anyone come on and share their stories, because it is nice to live in the now, but it is also nice to look back and reminisce over the good and the bad times. So yeah, definitely send us a message.
And then one last shout out to the German Gills show. Follow Reese on YouTube and on X. We work in partnership with him, and also Gills Legends as well. For all your Gills nostalgia and stuff is the best way I can put it. The links to the links to both of them will be in the descriptions. And thank you for watching the Shouting Men podcast.